Hello. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Welcome to season 2 of Rewind with Ro. I'm your host, Ro Carter, and my co-host,
Rob Smith.
There he is in the flesh. This is
Yeah.
episode 11. Here we go.
We are.
You know how we always started? I always like to see how your week was, and then we'll go to some hot topics. It's gonna be some crazy topics going on now. But how was your week, Rob? How you been, brother?
The week's been good. I was under the weather last night, and why do we even say that? I wasn't feeling well last night through today, but I pulled it together for this, so I'm here.
Line up, got some chapstick on, ready to go. All right, glistening. Got that good glow. Like you got a good job.
Yes.
All right.
Lips are popping. I don't know. I did just put some Vaseline on, and I was like, wait, I might have put on a little too much because I had that not feeling good, dehydrated lip.
Oh, the dry mouth and look like
exactly. So I just lathered it on.
There you go. Tyra Banks gave you a free bottle. The old school Vaseline. Anyway, so I am on location. I closed the blinds, but I am in Vegas, ladies and gentlemen. So behind me is the Wynn Hotel, hanging out on the Strip, living my best life. Me and the lady taking a little break. We're going to see Ali Wong on Friday.
Nice.
So she has a great show on Netflix. I'm going to plug, even though, she didn't ask me to. But if you haven't seen Beef yet on Netflix, I think it's really good. It's a lot of but yeah, wow, she can act and really stepping up her game. Also want to give a shout out to Michael Yo, comedian. I saw him last night at the Comedy Cellar here in in Vegas. So that was fun, just a different energy. So he sells shirts and he was hilarious. He's like, yeah, I'm selling shirts outside. 100% of the proceeds go to me.
I like that. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, I appreciate that. His kids, and he's talking about his kids the whole time because he's mixed. His mom is Korean and he's black, and his dad's black. And so he has an interesting kind of look. And so he was talking about his kids and raising them up and stuff like that. And he went into that, and I was like waiting for him to say, hey, all this is going to go to my kids and they're going to college. He's like, nah, it's going to me. It's going to me. So anyway, moving right along. The news has been crazy. Two of the big stations, Fox and CNN, fired two heavyweights. Tucker Carlson is gone from Fox after they just paid out a handsome ransom. Almost, they pay a lot of money. There's leaks coming out saying that there's another case about to go down where one of the managers there has a lawsuit saying that Tucker Carlson was being very anti-Semitic, racist, sexist on the show. And so they didn't want to deal with another lawsuit anymore. Man, I really want to, that's what I failed to do. I want to see how much money that Fox has paid out in the past decade. remember all those other lawsuits before, all the women that got, they've been paying out some, that means to tell you, they're making some money, right? To be paying out like that.
But to almost pay out 787, nearly $1 billion.
Ooh, that hurt my back.
I think we talked about this when it happened, that I was disappointed that they didn't have to actually come out and say, hey, we lied because we wanted to keep our audience base there because they believe whatever we tell them, and if we would have told the truth, they would have run somewhere else. The fact that they didn't have to do that is quite annoying, but the fact that now all of this additional information came out in discovery during the case. And now, all of these things that he has said privately and publicly are just too much for the company. It should have been too much well before this, but, I am so happy that he has lost the ability to spew lies and untruths to the masses of people who watched that entertainment news show. It is not news, people. It's entertainment news. And I wish people would pay attention to the fact that they actually categorize it as such, because it's entertainment. And the fact that, a lot of people blindly follow whatever he says, and they believe and they take it all as fact and truth is disappointing. And the fact that he just basically, serves up questions and hypotheticals and considers that to be, quality reporting. I'm just glad the platform has been taken away from him. On the flip side, I am very annoyed about the other circumstance because it is not at all the same. And I am tired of people making comparisons and saying, well, you know, Don Lemon, whatever. The Don Lemon situation is completely different. And I'm not just defending Don Lemon because he's Black and gay and stands for what's right. I'm not just defending him for those reasons. I'm defending him because, you know, one, he doesn't sit there and tell lies. Two, when he makes a mistake and says something that may be considered sexist to one of his coworkers, he apologizes and owns it, which Tucker Carlson has never done. And three, if this was spurred by his conversation the other day where he was protecting the truth of the experience of Black Americans against someone who was spewing lies in defense of, you know, Republican propaganda and the NRA, that's disappointing.
Yeah, I'm a little torn about this because I always remember, and this will lead into our topic tonight, our movie. You know, you got to know your place sometimes. And I think, hear me out. I think Don got a little too comfortable. The night, listen, most brothers would have lost the job the night he got drunk on the job live on New Year's Eve on CNN acting a fool. Most brothers
was he the only one who was up there having a good time?
Oh, on that CNN one? Yeah, I'm talking about other ones of the drop of the ball in Times Square. That's totally different. Anderson Cooper and them. But I'm talking about the one that he was hosting. He was lit. And they got it, everybody. So I was like, I just know my mom always told me when you're hanging out amongst people that don't look like you, you always got to make sure you act in a certain way, you know, stay out of trouble, you know. But mom, they're doing it too. It don't matter. It don't matter because they're going to judge you at the end of the day. So that's all I'm saying. I think in some cases he got a little comfortable. And you got to remember, listen, I love that he always spoke up for us and the LGBTQ community. So he was big for that, a big, sorry, the word I'm using. He's a big promoter of that. Yeah, activist. Woo, long day. Sorry, in the sun all day. But he was a big activist of that and promoted just saying the right things when there wasn't a voice on CNN. And so I love him for that. But like I said, there's just certain things you got to be careful and be mindful when you're kind of walking those fine lines. You're never going to win an argument against the NRA. I don't care what color you are.
See, this is where I have to interject because it wasn't just a conversation about the NRA, right? It was a conversation that he was having with, and forgive me, I'm probably going to butcher his name, Vivek Ramaswamy, and I'm probably saying it wrong, but he in the face of Don Lemon said that Black Americans were given their freedoms immediately after the Civil War. And it's not true. It is just simply not true. And the fact that, I applaud Don Lemon for saying, I can't formalize a thought if you guys are talking in my ear, and he took his, you know, IFB out his ear, because I'm sure the producers were telling him like, you need to scale back your energy, but he didn't need to, because again, these talking points that Tucker Carlson and all of these people have spewed out to their audience, which their audience is already fueled by hatred and racism, which was further, you know, catapulted to the forefront by the likes of Donald Trump. But for him to confront someone who's out publicly spewing such misinformation, I think is necessary. And I'm glad he didn't know his place in that situation, because he needed to confront him in that circumstance. And he needed to say, no, you are incorrect. And for you to sit here and tell a Black man when his rights started to go into effect in America is absurd. And for that man to be Indian American, you know, I have tons of friends, and I know this sounds crazy, like a racist person to say, I have tons of friends who are Indian American, and they absolutely sympathize with my experience as I sympathize with theirs, because, you know, in their culture, they have a similar structure of you know, social inequality based on the color of your skin. So for him to have that conversation with Don Lemon on national TV, to me was appalling. And for him to try and tell Don Lemon, no, you're wrong. And you know, we should be able to, as Indian American, as a white woman and as a Black man, have a conversation about the experiences of Black people in America. No, you shouldn't. You should shut up and listen to the Black person in the room telling you what their experience is, and maybe you'll learn something. So for me, he shouldn't have learned his place. For me, he should have spoken up as he did. And I hope that man gets the $25 million that he's alleged to still be owed by CNN.
But again, like I said, if that's the way he's going out for that, speaking up on that situation or particular topic, then I totally agree. Yeah, not to be let go of that. But other stuff, like I said, you have to be careful.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
I always have a lot to say. I'm sorry.
Clear. Just this is our views, not Black Films.
Yes.
Also, shout out to Jerry Springer, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yes.
Jerry Springer, if you're in our age bracket, he was a part of our childhood growing up. We saw the craziness and what really goes on in other houses, and just yelling Jerry as a kid, and it was crazy. You really got to see some crazy television, which made it entertaining, but also made me realize I need to get my stuff together. I'm not that bad, right? Those people are crazy. I'm not that crazy,
Yeah, those were good times for sure. So and we also have to say rest in peace to Harry Belafonte, who
yes, so I'm gonna shout out to Harry.
Phenomenal entertainer and an activist, and that's another major loss.
Big name, huge activist for African Americans and just people in general. There's a really cool there's an outtake now of "We Are the World," and they're singing like "Daylight Come and we want to go home," and so it was getting them through that. And you see Harry Belafonte in the back just smiling, and then I love it's magical, man, when you see somebody who's been all throughout history and been through the ins and outs of the civil rights movements and stuff like that, but then a smile can really change the way you view everything. And so gonna miss him. He was a huge just outlet for Black activism, and so step it up now. Who's next person in place? Anyway, movie tonight. Hey, I picked a movie. I was really interested in that because as a kid, I played an instrument. I played the cello. My sister played the violin. My cousin played the violin. My other cousin played the cello and the piano and all this other stuff. So we were very musically inclined as a kid, classical music. Sometimes I'm a little bit stressed, I listen to some classical music and just kind of vibe out, which is nice, or just chilling in the car, just chilling at home, just want to just relax. So when I saw this movie, Chevalier, oh man, my French gonna be good today, play. I got a lot of words. I was like, oh my God, I want to see this. So my only thing is I didn't get a chance to interview the cast. One of our other co-hosts did, Koku. So definitely check that out. That's on Black Film. But I did still see the movie along with Rob. We didn't see it together, but saw it individually. And so this story is about Joseph Boulogne. He was an illegitimate son of an African-American slave and a French plantation owner. Joseph Boulogne rises to an improbable heights, in French society as a celebrated violinist, composer, and fencer. So we kind of walk through his life. I love to ask some questions like, when you start a new movie, you get a picture, a glimpse of how their upbringing was. They give a small one and then they go into his life as a grown man. But we see his relationship with Marie Antoinette, the Queen of France, which is crazy. A brother's like, yo, man, this is my homie. And then also there's a love triangle relationship where there's a big affair, which is the basis of the movie. Now, I will tell everybody who's watching us tonight, please do the work and Google this man, because the only thing I will argue about this movie, I loved it, but the only thing I'll argue is they took a story that's not, it's loosely based and made a movie when his life was so much more than that, where I think you could have gave us a very deep dive into what this man did and accomplished. So you get little spurts here and there. But at the end of the day, you really see like who he was as a person, how he was raised, and who he became as a man. And so the one thing I'll say, and then I'll ask some questions from that, Rob, and your opinion on it. But there's a crazy scene at the end of the movie where, Maria Antoinette talks about, hey, if you step out of line, I can erase all you. I can just erase you off the planet. And that made I teared up because I thought about at the end of the movie. I was fine the whole movie, but I teared up because that's going on right now in Florida. And think about that. You erased this man. This man was playing with Mozart, like and killing him. Like, that's crazy to me. And we don't hear anything about this man. one of the best fencers in all the country. He was writing all these, composing all these works of art, and we heard nothing about him. It's 2023. Like, it blew my mind. Like, how does that happen? How does that happen? And so that's what I'm saying. I'm really scared when you have people saying, hey, we don't want to we don't have any kind of books showing that anything that Black accomplishments that have happened. And so what does that do to the individual, right? If we don't see people that can be all this, what do we do? Are we just another worker bee? Or do we really want to accomplish that next level or know that we can? And so that really moved me. I think I'm frozen. Sorry, I'm frozen a little bit.
You're not.
But anyway, so what did you think of the film when you first saw it before I go on this tangent?
Yeah, and I love it. Go on the tangent. It makes me happy because I agree with you. I think everyone should take some time and just do a little research about him, about Chevalier de Saint George. And I think they should do the work to research him a little bit and understand the history behind what he's done. And to your point, this is the thing that I thought about while I was watching it. I was like, it's interesting that, in American society, they try to erase the idea that slavery was a thing. They don't want to talk about it. It's too sensitive. They don't want their kids to feel guilty. They don't want to learn about it. They want to take the books out of school, blah, blah, blah. And I think, because we have such limited education in America on slavery, we just know they stole some people from Africa, dropped them off here, and then one day they let them go because the president was great, woo, and then they got their rights. People like Martin Luther King marched, and then they got to sit at tables together, and that's the end of the story.
Don't forget, Rosa Parks sat in the bus.
Yeah, right. So they just give us those. They just give us those points, and we're supposed to go, oh, okay, that was the extent of the history of Black people in this country. But I think the greater conversation is the erasing or the systemic destruction of African and Black culture globally. It was not just an American phenomenon. It was everywhere. And the fact that this point, I literally was thinking all this in the movie theater. I'm like, the fact that the UK just finished paying reparations to slave owners for taking away their property in 2015. Like, and they don't want to pay reparations to the descendants of slaves. Like, to me, it's crazy. And then they, of course, want to erase the history of, what's been accomplished and what's been done. So I sat there and I thought about that. And I thought, especially when, they put up the last statement at the end of the movie and you're like, wow, this man had so many phenomenal accomplishments. And with the reinstitution of slavery, they made a choice to just burn it all and get rid of it and destroy everything he'd done and destroy his legacy and just try and erase him from history because they didn't want any proof that there was this talented person of color out there. So I thought that this movie was necessary. I thought it was beautifully done. I get your point that, they had wrapped it into a minor part of a love story, but I think, they didn't want it to be a documentary. They wanted it to be a film. So they went with the angle of the love story, which at some points I was like, I don't know if the real person would have made that choice, but I don't know because I don't know. They burned the history.
Ain't no Black man in France in the 1500s having a good time playing.
But you never know. I'm like, you never know. But I thought they did a great job of telling the story. I thought they hit a lot of the key points of things that actually did happen in his life, and a lot of the accomplishments that he actually did make were like the pivotal moments of the film. So I think they did a great job of, really wrapping a lot of the reality and truth of the history of him into the film. And of course, sprinkling in like, the exaggerated romance, but they did hit a lot of the key things that were pivotal in his life. So I thought it was great.
We're working on words today, everybody. It's been a while. Our mouths are just loose. Loose. Sorry, bear with us. A lot of French words we were learning. That's why our brains are like, But anyway, so I Googled what a chevalier is, and so it's a French title, basically equivalent to being knighted. So I was like, wow. So this brother was basically knighted by the Queen, and it was crazy. And Louis the 16th at the time, Louis the 15th at the time, and so just imagine being a brother, right? No one else like you. You get to walk wherever you want. In this movie, they go to lengths where it's like, yeah, I don't know if that was gonna go down like that. Like, you're not gonna yell at the Queen, like, hey,
yeah.
I don't care who you are, you ain't checking the Queen.
Yeah.
But there's some amazing scenes. Like, if you look up his history, like she would literally have private concerts at Versailles. That's like going to the White House back then. You know, so it reminded me of like Jay-Z before in the White House when Obama was there. Like that's what that is, the equivalent of that. He's composing these amazing works of art, and you're like, oh my God, the ending, one of the best endings, like when he walks out and hear the drum, oh, that drum hit.
Yeah.
And so what I love about that is that they didn't put, like, I remember I watched The Great Gatsby, and they put like hip hop music into The Great Gatsby, where it's like, I didn't need that. But it was just a different way, a different spin on the film. So I was waiting, I was like, oh, don't do this. Don't put hip hop to classical. Like, just keep it. I don't mind if you do that for the mixtape, you know, or they do a CD afterwards, or they do an album for the movie. Go ahead, have fun. But during that, it takes away from some of these beautiful moments. If you've never been to France, please go. I've been there, 4 times now. It is so beautiful. The culture, the only thing that does suck is that people still smoke cigarettes all the time. It blows your mind, goes crazy. But besides that, the people, the culture, the architecture is just amazing, amazing, amazing. So you're blown away. So when I saw this movie, I was like, oh my God, like just imagine being a brother and being loved and being admired. And then you could just talk your crap. And the was like, well, yeah, you are talented, man. That's what you are. And so it was just so beautiful to see. And I guess that's the fear, right? The fear of the unknown. If we have more positive images on the screen, then that's another kid that's going to be like, oh my God, I can be this person. I can be just like him. So it's really beautiful the way the shots are done. I was going to ask you, who's your favorite person, actor, anybody was a breakout role that stole the scene, or everybody kind of held their own?
No, I think everybody kind of held their own. I think it was a well-balanced production. I think everybody kind of held their own. Everyone in a lead or supporting role did a phenomenal job. I think it was well cast.
What I was going to give a shout out was to his mom.
Mm-hmm.
She was amazing. So there's a scene later on where his dad passes away. And so because this is the term they use, a man of color, they use the word mulatto, which is like the N-word back then. So and it was crazy the way they said that. I was like, damn, I felt the N-word.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, you know, that hurt. And so he wasn't able to get a lot of rights in terms of to his dad's estate. If you Google his actual history, he did have a sister from his actual dad's side, so she got the estate. There's like a lot of little things they leave out. In the movie, they kind of make his relationship with his dad like very one-sided, whereas I read more about him, like, no, his dad actually did care for him and his mom, and so he provided these things for him, took him to Europe because he wanted to see the best for him.
I think they did a good job of making that clear. I don't think they made it seem like
it was like, here, son, and then I'm leaving. You know, it was like,
his father had he had a baby with a slave, and he had a baby with one.
That was in back then. That was in back then, play.
While it was in, it wasn't in, because you know,
pull-out game was not strong back then. Sorry,
he still had a whole nother situation, but he had a baby with a slave, and then because he did feel that, you know, his son was exceptionally gifted, he dropped him off at this school in Paris, which was not accepting of Black children. So the fact that he even pushed to get his son accepted into that school, to me,
was huge.
Enough to say, you know, he cares for his child.
His line.
I'm trying to use my words wisely. The child he conceived with the property he owned, he cared enough for him to take him to a school that, you know, was renowned for pumping out talented music artists. So,
yes. And that's what I love. So you don't get a big insight to his childhood, but you get a little like taste of him kind of being roughed up. And, you know, usually when there's only one kid who's a minority in a place, everybody kind of picks on him, but that kind of makes him stronger. And he remembers what his dad told him. He's like, hey, you know, just at the end of the day, be a gentleman and be the best Frenchman you can be. And so that was huge for him. So he was like, hey, I've always lived my life like that. And he was a little bit of a player, right? He was like hanging out. All these ladies wanted him. And he was like, hey, girl, chill. I'm good right now. And then you see this relationship kind of start with someone who is an amazing opera singer, but she's in a relationship. And the dude she's in a relationship with is, you know, he's fought in the war already. So he has a huge kind of backing and support. And that's just one person you don't mess with at all. And you kind of see them kind of butt heads. It gives them a warning too. So I was going to ask you about that. You know, being in a situation like, I'm not going to give it away what happens overall, but the outcome is not a good outcome for him. And kind of temptation puts him in the wrong path. So do you side with him for jumping into, he gave him a warning. He's like, hey man, leave my wife alone. She's not going to be singing for you. Leave her alone. He gave you a fair warning. I'm married, all that stuff. Is it still okay the way it went down? Or what's your opinion on that?
Okay. So I'm going to give my opinion. So I kind of have to jump back a second in order to give my full opinion, because I have to go back to his father, right? And I don't remember if it was Benedict Cumberbatch or Brad Pitt or one of them talked about, they had an interview after they had done 12 Years a Slave, and someone was like, well, you were like the like lovely slave master, the one who was like gentle and cared about his slaves. And the conversation was kind of like, well, I mean, if a person felt comfortable owning another person as property, I don't know how, kind that person is. Poor. So I don't want to like give too much room to be like, his father was great and kind because he took him to school, but he was also raping his slaves. So, but with that,
thank you for fixing that, Rob. Thank you.
Yeah. The character who was the husband of the opera singer who he wants to hire to. So I think we have to give a little more context too. So he has the opportunity to become the head of, the Paris Opera. That maybe you did clarify this.
Well, I was gonna get into that later, but just that because she sees they meet each other before he even gets that chance.
Yes. But he gets the warning when he comes to meet him.
Yes.
At their house to ask if she can, lead the opera.
Before you answer that, I'll just say this. So, Joseph Ballone has literally achieved everything under the sun. And so at this point, he's like, you know what? What's a challenge for me now? And he's like, I want to run the French opera. And they're like, you black.
No, you a mulatto. You can't do that.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. And so in the movie, Marie Antoinette says, hey, let's have a battle. And so whoever has the best opera, then the winner from that will happen. And so that's what you see. And so in this, he wants the young lady to perform for him and be one of the singers, the main act. And that's when the husband's like, hey, I don't want my wife to be paraded. She's not a whore or a harlot. So I want her to be a charlatan. I want her to just sit back and chill and stay out of people's ways, because that leads to temptation. And I was like, that's a valid point. He gave a warning with the cannon too in front of him. Like, hey, brother.
I don't think that's a valid point. You don't want your wife. You don't want your wife to be an actress because you don't want people to think she's a whore. Like, come on. And then also
temptation being like, I want that because it's in front of me.
If I see a bus driver that's cute, there's temptation. It doesn't matter. Like, come on. So agree to disagree.
Queens and kings, I see a good bus driver. Hey,
I'm just saying, temptation can come. It doesn't matter the profession. You could be the garbage man and be hot. So, but I'm just saying. But
Rob's sick for a couple of days. He's getting over that. He's getting over.
Hey, sometimes when they drop off my Uber Eats or the Instacart, I tip a little extra. If you're cute, you get a little extra. So, temptation comes in many professions. But I was also not surprised that, her husband was a raging racist in a world that was still trying to like figure out what are we going to do with all these black people that are now running loose. He also, beyond the whore warning, he also gave him a warning like, look, if we're in a different place, you wouldn't be running around dressed so nice and, speaking like you do, you'd be in the field. So, nothing that man said resonated with me as, I understand what you got going on. I understand your perspective. And also she was very unhappy, but I will say, I don't agree with people stepping out on the relationship because the person is unhappy. Like, you fix your stuff. And if you fix your stuff in time, I haven't found anybody, we can get together. So no, I don't think he should have, gotten himself into an entanglement with this person for multiple reasons. I love
how you use entanglement. Yeah.
Because, he's hiring her to be in the opera. She's married.
I had to think about
he's
that.
White, he's black.
Yeah. So it's different. Like when you had love back then, if you actually did have a certain feeling, because you're technically your child, if you had a daughter, was like property. That's the only way you kind of, so you sell them to the next guy who wants to get married. Hopefully he's a king or a queen, king next in line or something like, or, you know, or a duke or something like that. So at least, you know, there's a dowry or money's going to come back to your family. Right. And so usually you'll have your daughter marry into somebody. Right. And so if there was Sally was dating someone in the neighborhood or someone she liked, that was gone. Whereas the guys could do whatever they want back then. And I also love how the film touches on women's rights. That kind of movement was coming to the forefront at the same time there, along with dealing with, hey, there are more and more slaves coming into France. What do we do here? What are we going to do about all these immigrants coming in? And so it even deals with stuff going on today, right? It feels like, wow, this is the 1700s, and we're still talking about this 2023.
Yeah, and that's because of kind of what I touched on earlier. Like, people don't think about it, and they always going to go, "Oh, I wish Black people would just get over it." The reality is, we are like, while I get their injustices across cultures globally, Black people have systemically been like the target of hatred and destruction of culture, and it's not authentic and central just to America. It's global, and it's like, yeah, like that's why a lot of the things that are happening in the story still resonate with Black people, because it still hasn't been corrected or even recognized as being something that was destructive to us. So it's triggering and painful in some moments to watch this film, because we still live some of these realities today.
You know what? At the end of the day, as I gotten older, I've been more in love with the skin I'm in. And I think growing up around a lot of people that didn't look like me and going to Catholic school, I had no one who understood what I was going through. And so it took me a while to really like, hey, I love who I am. And when I felt that later on in my, like, I say early 30s, right? And then I was like, oh my God, this is great. This is so powerful, because we deal with things on such another level, and we have the patience. You know, anytime that someone either gets taken advantage of, or family gets taken out, or literally like been killed or massacred, we're so forgiving. We are so forgiving. We're not trying to like, hey, let's go to the Capitol and take it down. You know, we are such a forgiving group of people, which says a lot about us, our patience level and what we deal with. So when people get upset certain times about, oh man, this is so stressful, I'm like, you don't understand, man. It's stressful waking up every day. You think about what I put on when it was stop and frisk and all this stuff. So just think about that. You're just getting up and doing your normal day to day. So very interesting. Yeah. Many drivers in this movie. I loved her. I haven't seen it in a long time. Do I have a big accent?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It might be my fault. Who knows?
We have no idea, right?
It's better now.
It's better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, many drivers in this film. She's like one of the old school opera singers, and she's a legend, but everybody's like, I'm tired of listening to her now. And Joseph kind of mentions that, hey, you know, we need new energy. You know, the opera is running out of money. It might go out of business. So I want to do something different. And so the reason I'm bringing up Minnie Driver, because I love seeing her on the screen. I always think she's a great actress since, you know, I was younger watching her. And she calls out Joseph Malone in the film. And that scene, I felt that. So he gets a little out of pocket because now he's lost his place to actually run the French opera. And so he's literally at Versailles chilling, and he confronts Maria Antoinette, and he also confronts Minnie Driver's character about, hey, you know, you're all washed up. You wanted me earlier. Now you can have your way through everything. And she calls him like, hey, you're a toy. You're a monkey, and you need to go back into your cage. And I was like, oh, God. I was like, oh, Minnie, no. Like, that's how good she was in that scene. Like, I was like, damn, that hurt me. And you could see, like, at the end of the day, we have to remember sometimes in history, like, our place in the world, right? Like, people are making us feel comfortable. Hey, come on in, do this. All your talent, you're great. But at the end of the day, once that skill set is gone, and it reminded me there was a scene like they were going to break his hand, right? And I was like, oh, what do you have to offer once they take that skill set from you, right? That's it. You know, it's nothing. Your hands. That was everything you could do was with your hands, whether it was fencing, playing the violin, writing, like all that came out of this. Even though you're using this, all that came out of this. So that was a really big moment for me when I saw it. I was like, wow. I was like, all of that gone like that overnight, right? Anyway, what'd you think about that scene? Was there any other pivotal scenes for you that kind of like moved you, like, oh my God, like that was crazy?
Yeah, I think that was a powerful moment for the film. Both instances, the sorry, they must have a jungle gym upstairs. But yeah, it was a powerful scene with her, you know, having, and I always find it like interesting, and because I know it's difficult for a lot of these actors to play like these like extremely racist, ugly people. But I'm sure it's one of those characters like that you want to play because you get to like really move people in the experience. And again, like just trigger warning, it might, you know,
Yeah,
somebody
that
call you
scene.
a
I was like,
monkey. It's hard to sit down. But yeah, like I thought it was a great moment to lead into his kind of fall, or his like falling from grace. Because he did get to the point where his mother had kind of been warning him, like, hey, you know, I know you're comfortable and you walking around with these powder wigs on with your white friends, but you know, I just got released from a slave plantation last week. Don't forget, like, you're my son. So, you know, I think it was a good, you know, follow up to those moments where his mom had been trying to get him to like
come back to his roots.
Connection to the Black side of his culture and the Black side of himself, because it is indeed the part that people see first when they see him, even though he's accomplished in music. Yeah. So I thought that was great. And the tension in the, you know, scene with the hand breaking was perfect to lead up to, you know, the climax of everything else that occurred, with us moving into a space where he starts to see, okay, maybe there is something to what my mom is saying, and I should pay attention to the fact that I'm Black and I am in Paris, and they don't necessarily, you know, care for me as much as they probably should, but they just like me because I'm providing something that's beneficial to them in the moment. So I think it was a pivotal moment for him to lead into, you know, further investing himself into the movement of like the uprising of citizens to say, hey, we want better for people, you know, the Black people here. We want better for women. We want more for people in general. So I think it was a great lead up to those moments.
And that also, to touch base on the mom, once again, we see Black women playing an integral part in the upbringing of this young man and bringing him back, right? And like, because he's down his dumps, his love is life he can't have. And so him going to that, and mom's like, yo, pick your head up, let's go, you know, and puts him back into his roots. And that was just a beautiful moment. And we always have, throughout history, right? Black women have been there, such a positive kind of role model and statement to be like, hey, you know, we can still do this. If I can survive all this stuff at the end of the day, you can too. One other moment I wanted to talk about. There's a moment where he's talking about can I do this without giving it away? So something happens and he's talking to the girl he's having a relationship with, and he talks about she winds up getting pregnant. I'll say that she winds up getting pregnant, and then they talk about the child, and she goes, "It's my child too." Well, he was like, "It's my child." And I thought about, it's the same relationship that he had, his father and his mother had, right? Like he had to understand, like, oh my God, you are feeling that pain too. Whereas his dad didn't really understand what his mom had to go through until she's like, listen, you were taken from me. You don't understand. I've been struggling. You think I left you? I couldn't do anything. And so the same thing, you kind of see him get this like in his face, like, oh wow, that's the same thing my mom was going through, right? Like I had to carry you in my womb. You know, for 9, I don't know what they were doing back then. They might have done 10 months back then or 8. They weren't doing 9. I think they were doing in between. They didn't know what they were doing. So till baby came to full term. But for that, it's like, hey, you've been a part of me. And then for someone to strip that away from me, to take it away, messes me up. And so when I see you, I see so many things. I'm trying to get back memories. She's like, do you remember when I played this song for you as a kid? And he's like, I don't know. It's like all these little things, but slowly and slowly he starts buying back into that. So I really love that moment. It's small. It's a short part of the movie, but I think it's very integral to like getting him back to where he needs to be. And then we have the revolution. The revolution shall be televised. They acting a fool up in France. The people aren't getting what they want. They don't like Marie Antoinette. They don't like Louis. And everybody's up in arms. And that's when you see the movie really take a spin for him, kind of being the creative side of him really comes out. And now he starts composing these bigger beats because he got to get back to his roots. You feel the drums, which is crazy. I was like, I was thinking about all these great works by Mozart and I was like, and all these amazing composers. And I was like, I don't remember ever hearing like a drum, right? In that I was like, this is different, to classical music. So it was really well done. I would highly recommend also go to Spotify or anything you have, download some of his work. LA actually did a live during COVID. You can watch it. You can watch on YouTube. There's a live, like it did a whole big orchestra and they did an opera to his piece. And so, I mean, listen, I downloaded today. I'm starting to listen to his work. I hope more and more people do and really understand what he contributed. And it just, I even Googled this as well. He actually was roommates with Mozart, which is crazy. They lived together for like 2 years. So he helped. That's what I'm saying. Like they just erased his brother. Like how influential was he, to how we see things nowadays and listen to things. It's like, just blows my mind, things that we don't know. Because
there's probably a million other stories like this where, there are a million other stories like this. There are a million stories here in America. There's a million stories in Europe. There's a million stories, I'm sure, everywhere where we've been erased for the accomplishments we made because they were too great. So yeah, it's hard to watch. It hurts, but it's also great to learn about someone else who was phenomenal and made, tremendous strides for people of color and made these accomplishments and was accomplished in a way, like you said, where there's some kid who's going to go watch this and be like, you know what? I want to play the violin. I've always, dreamed of playing a string instrument, and that's the one. I have one hanging in another room. I tried.
The cello is different because even you in pizzicato, like with your fingers, it's just wider strings. And I would love to know because it looked like they really learned how to move their fingers like that.
Oh yeah.
Right. That's a tough skill because this.
I don't know if they were just moving their fingers.
Yeah, no, that's tough to do that clasp like that on the. That's really tough. So shout out to them or whatever they did. If they digitally did, I mean, that was like brilliant the way they did that. So if you ever played an instrument, you'll really appreciate the violin and how it's been played. And that scene of him having a battle. Like it was so black too, like it was like a battle, right? And then like the intro and outro coming out, like the doors open, like what's up, son? My name is Hope. I really felt like my name was Hope, like coming in like that. So there's something for everybody in this film. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. I also highly recommend looking up his story because it's such a beautiful story. And he played an integral part in Black culture and Black history. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I also I thought I thought the moment was kind of cheesy, but it was earned where he like loses the powder wig.
Oh yeah. You got the
like, I'm gonna rock the cornrows.
I'm like, come on, we're doing that. We went from powder wigs to cornrows overnight.
But
my roots back. Hold on, mom. Put them in.
Hold on, I'm taking this off. I'm done. Yeah, okay. It was fun. It was fun. It was cheesy, but it worked. It was fun.
Yeah, it was a good corny. It was definitely all right, man. You want to sure go natural. So we've come to the moment, ladies and gentlemen, where I asked Rob, what did he think about this film? And you know what? I can't wait to hear it. Come on, Rob. Tell us what do you give the film on a 1 to 10?
Bro, I thought the costume design was wonderfully done. I thought it was well written, even though, of course, they had to take liberties with some of the content because they don't know if he was out there like cursing out Marie Antoinette and really having this torrid love affair in the way that they had it. Who knows? So of course they had to take some liberties, but I think the writing was great. The storyline progressed in the way that allowed you to follow it, and you got to digest the history of Chevalier de Saint Georges. You got to really learn the history of him and learn about him, and a lot of the information that they presented was very spot on as far as, you know, the history we have of him. So I think this will spark a lot of interest from people who had no idea who he was, like us. So I think it's great that they told this story. I thought the music was beautifully scored for the film. I'm like you, I want to go, you know, download some of the music and really take some time to enjoy it. The casting was great. I thought all the actors gave phenomenal performances. So I don't really see any holes in the film. So, Ro, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, once again, Robin gives it a 10 out of 10. I mean, what are the chances? If you placed your bet, I'm in Vegas, you would have definitely won. Would have definitely won, 100%. I'm glad you loved it. I try to find films that challenge your mind, but also make you have a good time as well when you go on a ride. Shout out to Kelvin Harris Jr. That is the man, the lead actor there that plays Joseph Ballone. So he did an amazing job. He's going to be big. He's going to be big. This is a good breakout role for him. So shout out to this young brother. He did an amazing job. It's difficult, right? Doing bios, right? Because especially, well, maybe it's easier. I love to ask and I mean, you know, I mean, you act. So is it easier, you think, to do a bio when we don't have anything really to like look at, or is it harder because you really you're presenting this person for the first time to people?
Look, I haven't been, you know, blessed yet with the opportunity to make a biopic. I always say this, and everybody knows, if you know me, that I was like, I'm going to do the biopic for Arthur Ashe. Like, I want to play Arthur Ashe. I'm starting to feel like I'm aging out of it, but I'm like, I want to be the actor they cast for that story whenever it is told. So, and interestingly enough,
tennis,
Rob?
Can you play tennis?
I'm athletic. I'll train. Hello. Interestingly enough, I watched an interview recently with someone else. It hasn't come out yet, and he said he wants to make that story. So, hey, someone cast me. I'm here. I'm ready. But
you put the afro out a little bit. Put the nerdy glasses on.
And you know, that's all hair and makeup.
Your back. I need to see your work. You know,
that's all hair and makeup, and then that's a trainer. We're good. We're good. And then, so to answer your question, I've never shot a huge biopic about someone who's known nor someone who's not known. But my perspective would be, and you know, I think if you're going to play Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, I think there's a global expectation of like tonality that you have to hit with, like literal with their cadence of their voice and the way they speak, and then, you know, just figuratively speaking with like them being larger than life and having been so integral to a movement for an entire world of people. And then for someone who's not known, I think there's also an additional pressure though, because you want to do it right, because you want to honor that person and you want people to say, hey, I want to learn more about this person, and I'm intrigued, and I have to do my research and dig deeper into the history of their experience. So I think there's probably massive weight on both sides. But if I had to say one over the other, I would think maybe someone who is well known is probably going to be who's well documented is going to be a little more difficult, because there is that work to make sure that you hit all those markers that people are expecting to see with a Martin Luther King, a Malcolm X, a Rosa Parks, or, you know, a person that is well known in that way. When the real big Barack Obama one's done, we're going to expect a person to sound and move like Barack Obama. So, you know, there's an expectation that comes with it that I think you have to hit with someone who's extremely well known.
Yeah, it's definitely a different cadence. when you have to go about that. Yeah, and I think it's easier when you have, you know, blank canvas, right? And you can just go out there and create. But I also think the responsibility is that you have to knock it out the park. So it's not like someone saying like, "Oh, it was okay. Let me show you my," you know. If you hit it right the first time, no one even wants to touch it. They're just saying, "Hey, you got to see that man or that woman work," and it was beautifully done. So anyway, that's it for us. I mean, hey, great show tonight. Again, sun come down? Yep. All right, I'm in Vegas.
Let's split the winnings, bro.
Man, I ain't won nothing yet. They just keep me money every day. It's like we gotta leave soon. We're gonna have no shirt on my back. As I told the dealer last night, the one story I'll leave you guys with. Every dealer loves me. They laugh at me. The little Asian ladies, they love me. They're like, "You can't win." I was like,
where were you playing?
Listen, I've been here 2 days now. It's been a long day, but 3 days. But I said
that blackjack table. They kind of help you out.
I'm like, I'm lucky in life, and I think the reason I can't win as much on the tables is because I'm winning in life. And when you are winning in life, you can't win all the time, player. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say. So thank you to my lovely lady. I appreciate you so much. Good times. Thank you to Black Film. Thank you, Rob. Always a good time, player.
Always.
All right, everybody. See you next week. Be safe. Stay out of trouble. And hey, go back.